Yep, my dart is back. If you are new to the channel or need a reminder, I started this Revell 1968 dart and proceeded to cut it into many pieces to rearrange it into a monster. I figured out I could take two slant 6 engines and have one power the front wheels and one power the back wheels. A pair of superchargers would tie them together. But why stop there? So I added 4 more supercharged slant 6 engines to have 6 slant 6s with 6 superchargers. Say that 6 times fast. Now I needed a frame. Since this was inspired by Tommy Ivo's Showboat Dragster, I took the back half of that chassis and made the rest from evergreen plastic. Then it needed some wild wheels and tires. I did mention I wanted this dart to frolic in a meadow. And this is how I left it. It needs a lot more work. So here's where my dart stands after doing a lot of dremeling and sanding to get, the wheels in a location, and we got this piece glued in. And I find it interesting that the whole hood actually still fits, and I think basically it's going to be some fuel cells or something up underneath there. But I don't really know how I feel about this. I don't know, it just seems like my number one thing is the body is sitting on the tires. And for right now, that's okay, but I think of it as when it's time to let this thing rip, I just picture, mud, dirt flying up at all 4 corners. And it's, especially in the front, all of this is going to block mud. So I'm considering just hogging out all of this, and that would allow the front to come down quite a bit. And yeah, the engines aren't in all that straight right now. We're just mocking things up. I want the superchargers to be outside of this area, and right now they're kind of inside of it. And then the engines just kind of look like they're in this bathtub underwater, and they need to breathe. So that would help get, if I section the body down to get the front down, probably gonna have to do a little bit in the back too to get this thing even hungered down more. And the roof is just kind of sitting here. I added some structure here, and yeah, I think I just gotta make it sit lower. So, because basically the driver's head is about here, and yeah, it's gonna be hard enough to see over all these engines. So, you just kind of hold it straight, I guess, and hope it goes straight is the plan. And maybe you have a spotter that says, you're gonna crash, hit the brakes, turn it off, and then you crash anyway. So I think I'm gonna Dremel some more. Stay tuned. Here we go. Oh, that's looking really neat now. Okay, yeah. More sanding involved, but I think we kind of chewed that up. I'll make that sit like that now. Okay. Let's chew on the other side now. I think my battery's dying. dot. Yeah, we're gonna have to charge the battery and continue in a moment.
One eternity later.
Alrighty, fresh battery, continue grinding. All right, after much more grinding, I've eliminated the tops of the quarters here, and that's pretty neat that the tires are just gonna shoot muck into the roof. I might consider sectioning the roof out in just a little bit more. And I really like seeing the tops of the tires on the front. This still needs some more clearance, but it's all right. But then if you look, all of the superchargers are now above this, the top of the body line, or I guess this is the body line. And again, the engines aren't in straight, but we're gonna straighten that up. This is just trying to get this little beast in some form of reasonable form to start refining. One thing I do not like, one thing about cars is that you don't really want anything lower than the wheel, meaning that if a tire blows, you'll be able to run right away on the rim, you know, unlike the current NASCAR racers. So what I think I'm going to wind up doing is slicing a considerable amount off of the lower rockers, and I think that would even make this thing feel a lot lower and meaner with a little bit less in this area, and maybe a little bit up here. Back here, I think I'm going to leave that. That all looks mostly stockish. So let's get those rockers nipped off and see what we get then. So as the Bondo Sand Prime times 14 times has been going on, I kind of want to take a break and talk about engines. You know, it's up to this point, this is what I've been working around. This is one of the main reasons I advocate for people to get their own 3D printer. Because even without a printer, in the old days, if I was going to create a model with 6 slant 6 engines, I would have to go buy 6 kits. And if I didn't want to buy 6 kits, I would have to learn how to resin cast these engines. And that requires a whole nother set of circumstances to get materials and equipment and whatnot to make 6 engines. But with the price of these printers, you can get those and amortize it. I mean, if I bought these engines from any of the companies that sell 3D printed engines, I could see myself spending $15 to $20 a piece for these. And that buys a printer. And what's even better is I had these up until this point, but I'm not using those. I didn't print 6. I actually printed 14 because I can. And so now I have been working on what the actual engines are going in the car. And these are the ones that I've examined to be nice. And so I've started to add the exhaust. I've added the pulleys. I've even mocked up the blower belts on the outer ones. So I know that this piece
will fit into the chassis of the car. And as you notice, the carbs and the scoop skis, velocity stacks, whatever you want to call them, those aren't here. Those are going to be separate pieces that we'll talk about that later. And I have more pieces available that, you know, if something goes awry, and I think that's like the most beautiful thing about the 3D printing is you can make as many of them as you really need. So I'll kind of go into a little bit of depth of how these things were actually put together. I've had to girdle the blocks underneath the oil pan, and that goes into the chassis. That's all been done, and the chassis will have the motor mounts on the outside because, you know, I kind of like my models to have little things like that, you know, they might not be noticeable if they're not there, but if you notice it, it's like, oh, the engines are actually mounted into the chassis. So basically I'm going to start tearing this stuff apart, and it's mostly mocked up, and start getting some paint towards this. That would be pretty cool. See how it fits into the chassis. Get out of here. So here's the chassis, and as you can see, it has come a little bit further along. Most notably, I've added these outer flanks and extended the nose and added this so I can mount the body, mostly. Is it straight? Probably not. Does it matter? Not really. Because, you know, 6.6s. And so it kind of basically, these things just slide in. And they have a little bit of lateral adjustment, which helps things. But that's basically the gist of the car. You have the front axle. It goes up here, and I have little pins here. They've yet to be trimmed, but this will slide on down and positively locate this. This car will not have any suspension whatsoever. Basically, the tires are the suspension. It only goes 300 feet, folks. So, and then this one, it shoehorns in there, and it actually has pins that mount it securely. You can see that the axles have aluminum tubing centered up that will allow the wheels to mount securely, and I still have to do my braking system that is required by the rule book that this car would try to compete in. And then the body is getting somewhere smooth. I think it's getting close. And I've added this piece of brass up underneath here. We got some glue that needs to get cleaned up. That's all right. That then slides onto that bar. And then we carefully slide the body on. And when everything goes as planned, it becomes a very solid unit, considering, you know, how much this has been sliced and diced. The scoop, it becomes an access panel for the axle, and the front axle has also been aluminum tubed, so these will slide on and I can glue that easily. This is part of the planning, I guess. Yeah, it still sort of looks like a Dart. The grill still fits. And I have something planned for this that's going to be kind of neat. The rear bumper still fits, mostly. I think it fell. Gotta not let it fall into the burn pile. That's pretty neat. And the roof. Yes, it will have a roof. I've trimmed down the edge of the windshield and it still fits. And as you can see, I've made a escape panel that I think I'm gonna get some magnets in there to snug it down so you can get in and out. And I believe that the roof will wind up being like a bolt-on kind of thing, so you could remove it for better access, like when this thing crashes or what, I don't know. And you kind of know, we know about the wheels and tires. It's gonna sit a bit higher than this because it goes through dirt. But you kind of see the gist of it all. It's gonna look like that. There's gonna be all kinds of details that go on here and probably up here and more around here, and of course the paint job is gonna be total bananas. I think I have a plan for it. We will see. But this will probably be the last time I show it until it's painted. So I hope you've enjoyed following along the fabrication phase of my 68 Dart. And as always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do, because I have all kinds of model car stories to tell. Thanks for watching.